Hi everyone, this is Jenny and this is Tech Arcade News. Over the last couple of years, chips has quickly risen to become one of the world's most important commodities. Governments are fighting over them, companies are pouring billions into them, and the whole AI boom basically comes down to a race to get more of them. So today's episode, we're going to talk about how the world actually makes a computer chip. And I don't mean a chip in general, I mean the good ones. The tiny slice of silicon inside your phone that has, no joke, 19 billion transistors packed into one piece smaller than your fingernail. Where does that actually come from? And why does almost the whole planet depend on it? Today's episode breaks into 3 parts. I'll give you the plan up front so you always know where we are. Part 1, we're going to talk about the light. The very special kind of light you need to draw something this small. Part 2, the machine. The single most complicated machine humans have ever built. The thing that aims that light. Part 3, the factory. The one place on earth that pulls all of this off at scale. The light, the machine, the factory, in that order. Then at the end, I'll tie the 3 together and give you my honest take. And here's the nice thing. Once you get this, you'll understand it for years. The tech underneath it basically doesn't change. The headlines change, but this doesn't. So why does this matter to you? Almost everything smart you touch runs on one of these chips. Your phone, your laptop, your car, the data centers behind every app, the AI that talks to you. The most advanced version come from a shockingly small number of places. By most estimates, around 90% of the world's most advanced chips come out of one company in one country, Taiwan. So this isn't some faraway industrial thing. It's the foundation the whole modern world is standing on. So what is a chip? A chip is a little tile of silicon covered in microscopic switches called the transistors. A transistor basically is just a switch that flips on and off. And that on-off is the ones and zeros, the language computers think in. The whole game for 60 years has been one move over and over. Make the switches smaller. Smaller switches means that you fit more in the same space, and more switches mean a faster, more capable chip. So shrink the switch has always been the goal. And we have shrunk the chip to a degree that sounds makeup, but today's features are measured in a single-digit nanometers, and a nanometer is a billionth of a meter. We're talking structures only a handful of atoms across. Apple's A17 Pro, the chip in recent iPhone, has 19 billion transistors on something you lose in your couch cushions. So how do you carve something that small? You don't. It's closer to photography. You shine light through a stencil called a mask onto silicon coated in a light-sensitive chemical. Wherever the light hits, the chemistry changes, and that prints the pattern. You do it layer by layer until you build a 3D city of switches and wiring. This is called lithography, literally writing with light. And here's a catch that sets up everything else. To print smaller features, you need light with a smaller wavelength. So the whole quest comes down to getting the right light and aiming it perfectly, which brings us to part 1. Part 1, the light. First, why the light even matters. A sharper beam lets you draw finer lines. To shrink the switch, you need a sharper pen. So here's the ladder for light, from blunt to sharp. Visible light. This is the stuff that your eyes actually see. This is about 400 to 700 nanometers. The old chip making light, called deep ultraviolet, DUV, was 193 nanometers. It ran the industry for years, but got too blunt for the tiniest features. EUV, extreme ultraviolet, drops all the way down to 13.5 nanometers, and that's our new light. To put that into perspective, EUV is roughly 30 to 50 times sharper than visible light and about 14 times sharper than the old 193 nanometer light, a much, much finer pen. And how they actually make EUV light is genuinely wild. They take molten tin, actual liquid metal, and shoot tiny droplets, each about 25 microns across. This is thinner than a human hair, out of a generator at 70 meters per second. As a droplet fires through the air, one laser pulse flattens it into a little pancake. Then a second, much stronger laser vaporizes that pancake into a super hot plasma, and the plasma glows with exactly the 13.5 nanometer light you need. That fire-flattened vaporized cycle repeats around 50,000 times every single second on today's machine. 50,000 droplets a second, each zapped twice. And that's just to create the light. We still haven't printed anything yet, but that is only part one. Making the light is already one of the hardest things anyone does, but light on its own is useless. You have to aim it with insane precision. This is part two. Part two, the machine. Here's where it goes from hard to almost unbelievable, because EUV light has a nasty property. Nearly every material just absorbs it. Glass lenses, the kind in a normal camera, will swallow the light completely, so you can't use lenses at all. Instead, you bounce the light off mirrors, and the whole thing runs inside a vacuum because even air will soak the light up. The mirrors are made of a German company, Zeiss, some of the smoothest objects ever manufactured. The way people describe it, if you blew one up to the size of Germany, the biggest bump on its surface will be under a millimeter tall. Put it all together, the thin plasma, the lasers, the vacuum, the impossible mirrors into one machine. And here's a punchline. There's exactly one company on earth that can build it. A Dutch company called ASML in a town called Veldhoven. Not a market leader, ASML is the only company in the world that can make this. Each machine has more than 100,000 parts, all tuned perfectly together. A standard one costs well around $100 million, often $150 million or more. The newest generation, which is high-NA EUV, runs about $380 million each for one machine. Shipping just one takes something like 40 freight containers, 3 cargo planes, and 20 trucks. So that's part two. The entire digital future funnels through a machine only one company in one Dutch town knows how to make. Part 3, the factory. Owning the machine doesn't mean you can use it well. Running these at scale, billions of chips where almost everyone works, is a whole separate art. Quick personal note, if you don't know yet, I'm from Taiwan. Growing up, the chip industry was an abstract. It was a national pride. Everybody knew the name TSMC. It was built by a man named Morris Chang. He was born in mainland China in 1931, ended up in the US and spent 25 years at Texas Instruments, rising to run their entire worldwide semiconductor business. In the mid-1980s, Taiwan's government asked him to move to the island and help build up its tech industry. So he crossed the Pacific and started over. In 1987, when he was 56 years old, he founded a company on an idea that sounded almost backwards. Back then, if you design chips, you also have to build your own billion-dollar factory. Chang's idea, what if a company only manufactures, designs nothing of its own, and just builds whatever others design? That's a foundry, and that was TSMC, the Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing company, the first pure-play foundry in the world. Why it changed everything? Because suddenly, you didn't need your own factory to be in the chip business, a much lower barrier of entry. A few brilliant engineers with a great design could just hand it to TSMC. That unlocked a whole universe of companies. NVIDIA, Apple's chip team, AMD, Qualcomm. So many big names don't own the factories that make their chips. TSMC does. It became the workshop for the whole industry. Today, TSMC makes around 70% of the world's made-to-order chips overall, and by most estimates, around 90% of the truly advanced ones. It builds onto 3 nanometers and now ramping up to 2 nanometer production. It mostly runs out of one spot, Hsinchu Science Park, a dense cluster of fabs on an island smaller than a lot of US states. People call it Taiwan Silicon Shield. So that's our 3 parts. The light from vaporous tin, the machine from one company in the Netherlands, and the factory from one island. Now the bigger arc that connects them. Back in 1965, a scientist named Gordon Moore, who'd go on to co-found Intel, wrote a short article. He predicted the number of components we could cram onto a chip would keep roughly doubling on a steady schedule. He later settled on about every 2 years. That became Moore's law, and it stopped being just a prediction. It became the drumbeat the whole industry marched to for decades. Every couple of years, smaller switches, more of them, better chips. Everything we cover, the thin plasma, the perfect mirrors, the $380 million machines, the island full of fabs, is really humanity fighting to keep that doubling going, long past the point where it should have been physically possible. When people say a chip is just a chip or a phone is just a phone, I think they're missing something genuinely awe-inspiring. The device in your hand is the tip of one of the most extraordinary chains our species has ever assembled. A special light made from metal we vaporize with lasers. A machine so complex only one company on Earth can build it. A factory on one island that does it flawlessly, millions of times over. 3 parts, each near impossible on its own, all lining up so you can watch a video or text a friend. So this episode, how the world's most advanced chips get made. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'm Jenny, and this is Tech Arcade's News. I'll see you next time.